What if the only thing standing between you and the life you desperately want is not your talent, not your resources, not your circumstances, not your luck, not your background, not your education, but simply 10 daily habits that winners practice every single morning while you are still hitting snooze? What if I told you that the most successful, most fulfilled, most courageous people on this planet are not born different from you, they just choose differently every single day before the world even wakes up? What if vulnerability, the very thing you have been running from, hiding from, ashamed of, is actually your greatest superpower? What if your mess is actually your message? What if the stories you tell yourself before you brush your teeth in the morning are literally building or destroying your entire destiny? What if courage is not something you find, it is something you practice like a muscle, like breathing, like loving someone? Right now, in the next few minutes, I am going to hand you 10 habits, 10 daily decisions that separate people who win at life from people who simply watch life happen to them. Stay with me, because what comes next might completely change everything you thought you knew about yourself. What if the life you have been dreaming about is not on the other side of a miracle, but on the other side of a habit? What if everything you have ever wanted, the courage, the connection, the fulfillment, the success, is already inside you, waiting not for the perfect moment, but for the perfect practice? I want you to sit with that question. Let it settle into your chest. Let it make you a little uncomfortable. Because here's what I know to be profoundly, undeniably true. Discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is the exact address where growth lives. We live in a world that is obsessed with outcomes. We celebrate the trophy, but ignore the training. We applaud the breakthrough, but dismiss the breakdown that came before it. We worship the highlight reel and scroll past the behind-the-scenes footage of real, raw, messy, beautiful human effort. And because of that, most people spend their entire lives waiting to feel ready, waiting for permission, waiting for someone to tell them they are enough. But winners do not wait. They practice every single day, before the applause, before the recognition, before anyone is watching. So let me take you inside the 10 daily habits that change everything. The first habit is this: winners wake up and they choose courage before comfort. Every single morning, before the noise of the world rushes in, before the notifications, before the emails, before the endless scroll of other people's curated lives, winners make a decision. They decide that today they will choose courage over comfort. Now I want you to understand what courage really means, because we have gotten it completely wrong. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is not the loud, dramatic Hollywood version of bravery. Courage is whispering to yourself, I am terrified and I am doing this anyway. It is sending the email when your hands are shaking. It is raising your hand when your voice wants to stay silent. It is showing up imperfectly to a world that demands perfection. The people who are winning at life are not fearless. They are faithfully courageous, one small, brave choice at a time, every single morning, before the rest of the world even opens its eyes. The second habit: winners practice vulnerability like it is a religion. And I mean that with every ounce of seriousness I possess. We have been taught by our schools, by our cultures, by our families, by our own wounded experiences, that vulnerability is weakness, that showing emotion is losing control, that admitting you do not know something is admitting defeat, that asking for help is a confession of inadequacy. And so we armor up, we build walls, we perform strength, we fake certainty, and we wonder why we feel so desperately, achingly alone even when we are surrounded by people. Here is the shocking truth that will rearrange your understanding of human success. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the most accurate measurement of courage that exists. When winners sit in a meeting and say, I don't know the answer, but I want to find it, they are not losing credibility, they are building it. When winners look at someone they love and say, I am scared of losing you, they are not being weak, they are being magnificently human. Vulnerability is the birthplace of every beautiful thing: love, creativity, belonging, innovation, joy. And winners practice it daily, even when it terrifies them, especially when it terrifies them. The third habit: winners name their shame before shame names them. Now, this is the one nobody wants to talk about. This is the one that sits in the dark corner of every successful person's journey. And it is the habit that separates people who eventually break through from people who almost did. Shame is that intensely painful feeling that we are not good enough, not smart enough, not thin enough, not successful enough, not worthy enough of love and belonging. And shame thrives in exactly two things: secrecy and silence. The moment you drag it into the light, the moment you look at it and say, I see you, I know what you are, and you do not get to run my life anymore, it loses its power over you completely. Winners do this daily. They have what I call shame resilience. The ability to recognize shame when it shows up, understand what triggered it, share it with someone they trust, and speak their own truth. They do not let shame make their decisions. They do not let shame write their story. They name it, they claim it, and then they refuse to let it own them. The fourth habit, winners practice gratitude like their life depends on it, because it does. I have spent years studying what makes people truly resilient, truly joyful, truly successful in the deepest sense of that word. And the one thing, the single consistent thing that the most wholehearted people in my research had in common was this. They practice gratitude actively, daily, and deliberately, not as a feeling they waited for, but as a practice they created. And here is what will shock you. The people who practice daily gratitude are not grateful because their lives are better. Their lives are better because they practice daily gratitude. Every morning, winners write down 3 things, not generic, not vague, but specific, detailed, real things they are grateful for. The way morning light falls through a window, the sound of their child laughing at something ridiculous, the fact that their body carried them through another day. Specificity is the key. Specificity is what makes gratitude transformative instead of transactional. And when you do this every day, your brain, your actual neurological brain, begins to scan the world for beauty instead of threat, for opportunity instead of obstacle, for abundance instead of scarcity. This is not motivational poetry. This is neuroscience. The fifth habit, winners set boundaries with love and without apology. This is the one that surprises people the most because we have been told a lie. We have been told that boundaries are selfish, that they are walls, that they push people away, that truly loving, giving people do not have them. I want to dismantle that lie right now completely and permanently. The most generous, most loving, most connected people I have ever studied are also the most boundaried people. And that is not a coincidence. Boundaries are not walls. They are the very thing that makes real intimacy possible. Because when you know what you will and will not accept, when you communicate that clearly and kindly, you create a space where authentic relationship can actually breathe. Winners say no to things that drain them so they can say yes to things that fill them. They say no to the extra commitment they resent so they can say yes to the dinner with their family where they are actually present. And they do not apologize for this. They understand that boundaries are a form of self-respect, and that self-respect is the foundation of every single other good thing in their life. The sixth habit, winners choose connection over perfection every single day. Perfectionism is not the path to excellence. I need you to hear that clearly, because our culture has sold us the most dangerous lie dressed in very expensive clothing, that perfectionism drives success. It does not. Perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we carry around hoping it will keep us from being hurt, from being criticized, from being judged. And what it actually does is keep us from being seen. Winners understand that perfectionism is not about high standards. It is about fear. It is the fear that if I show you the imperfect me, you will not love me. And so instead of perfection, winners daily choose connection, messy, real, imperfect, beautifully human connection. They send the text even though the words are not perfectly arranged. They show up to the conversation even though they do not have all the answers. They create the thing and put it into the world even though it could be better, because done and real is infinitely more powerful than perfect and hidden. The seventh habit, winners rest without guilt, and they rest with intention. Here is something that modern hustle culture will never tell you. Exhaustion is not a badge of honor. Burnout is not a sign that you care deeply. Running on empty does not make your work more meaningful. It makes your life more miserable and your impact more shallow. Winners rest. They protect their rest the way they protect their most important meetings. They understand that rest is not the absence of work. Rest is the preparation for better work. Sleep is not laziness. Sleep is strategy. Stillness is not wasted time. Stillness is where the best ideas live. Daily rest, daily silence, daily moments of genuine recovery, these are not rewards for the privileged. These are non-negotiable habits of the courageous, because you cannot pour from an empty vessel, and you cannot live a wholehearted life on a hollow foundation. The eighth habit, winners tell themselves a different story. The stories we tell ourselves are the architecture of our lives. We are all, every single one of us, the authors of a running narrative in our heads, a constant story about who we are, what we deserve, what is possible for us, what our failures mean, what our pain means, what our future holds. And most of us inherited our stories from wounded people who had not examined their own stories yet. Winners do something radical and daily. They examine the stories they are living in. They ask, is this story true? Is this story mine? Is this story serving me or destroying me? When something difficult happens, instead of immediately jumping to the worst, most shame-filled narrative, winners pause and say, I need to investigate this story before I live inside. They recognize that the stories we tell ourselves in moments of pain, in moments of failure, in moments of uncertainty, those are the stories that shape everything. Change the story and you change the life. Winners do this every single day. The 9th habit, winners live in curiosity instead of judgment. Judgment is exhausting. It is one of the most energy-draining things a human being can do, constantly evaluating, comparing, criticizing, ranking, dismissing both other people and ourselves. Winners replace the daily habit of judgment with the daily practice of curiosity. Instead of why would they do that, they ask, I wonder what that person is carrying that I cannot see. Instead of, I cannot believe I failed again, they ask, what is this failure trying to teach me? Curiosity is fundamentally incompatible with shame and contempt. You cannot be genuinely curious about something and simultaneously hate it. And when winners turn that curiosity inward, when they look at their own fears, their own patterns, their own edges with wonder instead of disgust, they unlock levels of self-understanding and personal growth that judgment could never reach. Daily curiosity is daily freedom. The 10th habit, and this is the one that ties everything together, winners show up. They show up, that is it. That is the whole secret. They show up when they are scared. They show up when they are tired. They show up when they are uncertain and underqualified and overwhelmed. They show up when the outcome is not guaranteed, especially when the outcome is not guaranteed. Because the people who change their lives, who change other people's lives, who build something real and lasting and meaningful, they are not the most talented people in the room. They are not the most educated or the most connected or the most naturally gifted. They are the ones who kept showing up after everyone else sat down. They are the ones who got knocked down and stood back up, not because it was easy, but because they had practiced daily, consistently, without waiting for permission, the 10 habits that made them strong enough to rise. So here is where I want to leave you, and I want you to carry this with you long after the speech is over. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are not too late, too damaged, too ordinary, or too far gone. You are a human being standing at the beginning of a practice. And that practice begins not someday, not Monday, not when your life gets easier or your circumstances get better. It begins today. It begins with one courageous choice, one vulnerable moment, one boundary spoken out loud, one shame story named and defeated, one grateful breath taken before your feet hit the floor. The distance between the life you have and the life you want is not measured in talent or luck. It is measured in daily habits. 10 habits practiced imperfectly, practiced consistently. Practiced with the whole messy, beautiful, terrified, hopeful heart that you already have.
Winners are not people who never fall. They are people who decided quietly and completely that falling is part of the practice and that the practice is worth it. You are worth it. Your courage is worth it. Your story is worth it. Now go live it one brave day at a time.